Founders, I hate to say it, but you kind of suck at SEO. You're not good at it. And it's a problem, but here's the thing. Like, a lot of founders I work with have such good ideas and incredible insights. And so we're going to fix that today. Marcus Sheridan joins us, the OG writer of They Ask, You Answer. I don't even know if I used that right. But of course, the new book is Endless Customers. Marcus, thank you so much for coming on the Justin Brady Show. I really appreciate it.
Justin, it's a pleasure. I think we're going to have a great conversation.
Yeah, I think so too. And like founders, I work with founders all the time. They have incredible insights. They have these new innovations, these incredible things they're doing that are just mind-blowing. And they often think that, well, that idea just speaks for itself. I don't need to do marketing. I don't need to do content. People will readily see that idea and they'll just beat a path to my door. David Burkus calls this the mousetrap myth. Of course, he's been on this show before. Can we talk broadly about, for those that aren't familiar with you, the They Ask, You Answer framework? It's so deceptively simple that I feel like people will gloss over it and not realize the value in this idea. But let's go into that first, and then I want to move into how AI's killing SEO. We'll talk about that next. But let's start there with that framework and what the whole idea is.
Yeah, so I started a swimming pool company in Virginia in 2001 called River Pools. Things were going okay up until about 2008, 2009. Most folks remember that, that were, had a business during that time. That was one of the last big crashes that we had. And it was during this time that I thought we were going to lose the business. A lot of pool companies were in trouble. But the good thing about pain and suffering, as you know, Justin, is it forces us outside of our comfort zone. And so that's when I started to do things that just hadn't really been done in the pool industry. And I became obsessed with how buyers were changing and realized, most are going online today to do their research and they want to vet companies out before they reach out to them. And so I said, I'm going to give them every reason to trust us on the front end. I'm going to answer every question that anybody's ever asked me about, in this case, a fiberglass swimming pool. And that's what we did. We became essentially the Wikipedia of pools. And that led to becoming the most trafficked swimming pool website in the world within the next couple of years. And the business exploded. We became a manufacturer of fiberglass pools. I eventually sold that. During this journey, I wrote a book called They Ask, You Answer, as you mentioned. It's done really, really well. It led to a coaching company that helps organizations implement that system that is today called Endless Customers. And, I've done a few things along the way. I even have my own startup right now. It's called Price Guide. It's a software, and it's very aligned with the whole They Ask, You Answer mindset, which I'm sure we'll talk about. But it's been a crazy journey, a great ride. There is trust to be found within transparency, and there's a major trust deficit in the world today. And the companies that are willing to think like a buyer and give them what they want, they will become that trusted advisor, and then ultimately you're probably going to win the business.
And so what I like about the They Ask, You Answer framework is that there is no better authority than you on this topic because you sold pools.
Yeah.
Like, my clients are like, there's such a difference between these tech companies that are doing something truly unique and then you selling pools. Any marketing person would say, well, if this They Ask, You Answer model is going to work, it's going to work for the tech companies that have something truly unique. It's not going to work for Marcus Sheridan, who's selling the same product a billion people have. It's not going to. But yet, you are living proof that that's not the case. And so the They Ask, You Answer model, how did you first crack that nut? Were you essentially just listening to people and you're like, hey, that's a good question. Maybe we should write a blog post on it. And then lo and behold, this stuff started getting hit?
I really just started, studying inbound marketing and content marketing. They were new phrases at the time.
Yeah.
And I just heard my simple pool guy mind, Marcus, if you just obsess over their questions and you're willing to address them online, you will win. And so I sat at my kitchen table one night and brainstormed like every question I'd ever received that I could recall in a home. And even for, the next couple of years, if I got a question in a home, I would think, have I answered that already online, through text, through video? Why are they asking me that question? They should already know the answer to this. Like those are the thoughts that I would have.
Yeah.
And I always felt like if they were asking me something, somehow I had failed in making sure they knew beforehand. Because the whole idea is that when you get to the sales to the sales meeting or the sales conversation, and by the way, I've worked with now at this point thousands of sales teams. So I'm a sales first guy, right? And lots of times there's this mindset of like hold back and then when you meet with them in a sales meeting, that's when you give the thing. And we see this prolifically with like SaaS demos and stuff. And it's why it's a very, very broken model, because 75% of all buyers today say they would prefer to have a seller-free sales experience.
Ugh, yeah.
And that's pretty extraordinary if you think about it, because it doesn't mean that we hate salespeople, Justin. We just don't want to talk to a salesperson until we're good and ready, until we're confident, comfortable, we feel informed, we feel like, hey, I'm not going to make a mistake. That's what we want. And they're going to get the information from someone. So the question is, do they get it from you,
Yep.
or do they get it from your competitors, or do they get it from some stupid third-party website that is just, trying to make a buck off of, answering all the questions that buyers actually have?
And then selling ads on it or something. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. The Capteras, the G2s of the world. I mean, it's all these different like places, third-party sites that, it's crazy to me, dominate industries oftentimes in terms of thought leadership, because the businesses themselves, the startups themselves, aren't willing to give people what they actually want.
Right. And there's a third party that is willing to do that. And what
Correct.
they often do is they often rip off that content from the companies themselves who
wild.
don't know how to market it.
Correct.
So it's like they're almost an intermediate, like it's basically a third party that's happy to take all that traffic from these people who are actually generating it themselves. It's crazy because what most companies don't know, we work with people on content all the time, and so our paths have crossed quite a bit. Before this, like as far as like similar stuff we kind of do. I don't know how else to say that. Sometimes when you're doing a live thing, the words don't come out. But it's incredible to me when you focus on just high quality content and answering questions, and you just put that up there. It is absolutely insane. I'm like, where do these people come from? They just keep hitting the site. And especially when you do that in like a niche tech industry where people are searching for solutions they don't actually think exists, or they're just Googling their problems and lo and behold, this thing comes up. It's amazing how quickly you can gain market share and I guess internet share by doing this stuff. So the basic,
Yeah, especially in tech, because a lot of it is still a blue ocean, because many of these founders haven't taken the initiative to actually take action, right? What's interesting is, and I talk a lot about this in the Ask You Answer, and then of course it continues in Endless Customers, because this is very evergreen, and that's the fact that there's essentially 5 subjects that buyers research whenever they're looking to buy something, a product or service. It doesn't matter, B2B, B2C. There's really 5 things that we've grown to research over the course of these 30 years that we've been using this thing that you and I call the internet. And that is, number 1, we first research cost. It is the literal gateway of the buyer's journey, because the first question someone has once they know they have a need, a problem, they say, roughly, what's this going to cost? That's the first question. Number 2, they want to know what are the issues, negatives, problems, drawbacks. So that's the fears they have. So we'll just call those problems. So we got cost questions. Then we got, fear or problems-based questions. Number 3, we got comparison-based questions. People freaking love to compare online.
Yeah.
You do, I do, we all do. We want to feel like we're really seeing the entire option list, if you will, and knowing, what's right and what's wrong for us. Number 4, we're obsessed with reviews. The thing about reviews, we don't just want the good reviews, we want the good, the bad, and the ugly reviews to really solidify like our thoughts. And finally, number 5, we want to know the best, the most, the top. I mean, just think how many times you've gone online and researched best plus another phrase. So those are the big 5: cost, problems, comparisons, reviews, best. It's what buyers want to know. It's what they're obsessed with, and businesses don't want to talk about it. And that makes them the ostrich with their head in the sand.
Yeah.
Very dumb, because that's not going to make you the voice of trust ever. But if you want to become the voice of trust, you need to be willing to lean into, talk about, show, especially with video, what others aren't willing to do. And in many ways, that happens with the big 5.
Yeah. So I want to move into something that I think probably sparked the creation of this book, because there are some themes that are familiar from your first one. I'm assuming that's your first one, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
So they Ask You Answer was like, it's the first main book I was known
I was
for.
like, oh no, I did not research if that was actually your first book.
All right, man.
So there are some familiar themes, but I think what probably pushed you into this is how AI is disrupting things. And so I've actually heard from some tech people like, AI is going to completely disrupt SEO. SEO is useless, like inbound's over. And so, and these are serious questions. I'm not like straw manning a position so we can tackle that. I actually hear this from tech founders who write code at pretty cool startups. And so just broadly, and I have a bunch of little sub questions off this, of course, but broadly, is AI killing SEO or is it just changing it?
There's a massive disruption that's happening. There's an incredible evolution of what we might call SEO. I mean, if you think about it, for roughly the last 20 years as businesses, we've needed to get the attention and the recommendation of two fundamental parties. Number one, the end user, the customer, all right? Number two, we had to be recommended by Google. And in order to do that, we had to do two things. We either produce great content, and SEO helped us, or we just paid for it through ads.
Yeah.
Now, the issue, though, of course, is we're seeing a huge shift of people move from Google to places like ChatGPT to get their answers. So today, if you look at Google, 60% of all searches end in a non-click, which is pretty wild if you think about it. And many companies are saying that they're seeing, especially ones that have been doing, let's say, content well over the course of time, say River Pools, for example, are seeing less traffic, not worse rankings per se, but less traffic. And that's because ChatGPT is stealing a lot of it.
Yep.
AI answers, the AI summary is stealing a lot of it. And a lot of that very top of funnel information that they were getting on a website before, they're getting from AI today. Now, does this mean that you shouldn't be producing content and shouldn't be focused on attracting these now three entities, which is the end user, the traditional search engine, and now the AI search engine? No, in fact, I think the idea of becoming that thought leader, that voice leader, I think is as important today as it's ever been. One of the biggest reasons for this is because really what AI uses, and you could argue the same for Google, but I think it's going to be even more impactful with AI search engines. And that is, trust signals are going to become fundamental to who they are recommending. I think in many ways, as a business, you in the future will live and die by how much AI recommends you.
Yeah.
And if you're not recommended by AI, you could be in big trouble. So how do you do that? Well, you have to create enough trust signals in the marketplace so that AI says, you know what, there's something about this company that I'm seeing across the board. What's a trust signal? Trust signal could be everything from a Google review to having, to having great content on your website, to having a strong social presence, to having a strong YouTube channel. I mean, all these things are signals from the marketplace.
I would say good PR too, getting interviews and stuff on third-party sites.
That's another thing. That's another, getting sourced from others. I still think being linked to by other prominent sites.
Oh, yeah.
All these things are trust signals. So the idea is that you got to attract them. What's interesting though today is if you're using ChatGPT and you're using Google and you do the same searches, 4 out of 5 times you're getting very different results with ChatGPT than you're getting with Google. So they're not using the exact same algorithm by any stretch of the imagination. It's made marketing harder. It has made it more important that you're sharing your story.
Yeah.
But I don't think you can just do it the way I did it with River Pools, which is crush your website content, do a little bit of YouTube, call it a day, become the most trafficked swimming pool website in the world. That's one of the biggest reasons, why I wrote Endless Customers.
Yeah.
I said I'm not going to marry myself to the past, even though a lot of people say the Ask You Answer is the foremost strategy for content marketing and arguably SEO simplified. I didn't want to just rest on my laurels. I said, hey, we need to evolve this and we need to recognize that there is a massive shift that's happening. And you have to become more like a media company.
Yeah.
You've got to become a prolific content producer. And multiplicities of forms. And by the way, this ain't easy, y'all. I'm not saying this is just like snap your fingers. I'm not saying, oh, easy for you to say. I'm just saying where the world's headed, and where the world is headed is we need to think more like a media company from a text, a video, and even an audio standpoint.
Yeah, and I hate video, dude. Like, I started out in podcasting and radio, and I would just sit behind a microphone. I could like pick my nose or write notes. I could do whatever I wanted. And now with video, I'm staring into a camera lens. For everybody that doesn't understand, there are lights all over this place. The place looks like a mess. There are wires everywhere. Marcus is actually down here, and the video camera's up here. So I'm looking at all you. And so, yeah, it's kind of a pain. But when I added video to a couple client projects, Marcus, I'm not even kidding you. It blew my mind. They are seeing the same things you are seeing, which is traffic is flatlining. Even Apple and Spotify, by the way, are starting to kind of like flatline a little bit. They're still growing, but man, video platforms are absolutely exploding. And so I'm seeing the same thing. Are we basically going to see like traffic, like web traffic now is the new vanity metric? Essentially, like traffic is going to decrease. However, and bounce rates will also decrease. So that means when someone is on your site, they have extremely high intent.
Yeah, like HubSpot has lost 80% of their traffic, but their conversions are
80%.
Their conversion percentages are
cow.
up significantly.
I bet.
But I mean, they're not getting more conversions. They have a higher conversion percentage of existing visitors. One of the things I believe is true for a lot of folks listening to this, which would be sacrilegious to some.
This is a perfect show for this.
Yeah, I think within 5 years, there's a strong argument that your YouTube page will be more important to your brand than your website.
I read that in your book, and I was horrified. But you're right. You're not wrong. So yeah, this is really, really hard for people probably like you, but also for me to understand is. We had, content and PR people have coached people for years, and this ended years ago, but, own your own channels, because one day Apple or YouTube,
rented land,
they're going to steal it from you, so you need to get it on your website. Of course, that went out the window 2 years, maybe longer, years ago. And so now, like what you're telling people to do, I'm telling people to do the same thing, is your audience is not going to convert anymore. They're not going to come to your website. They're not going to come to your, they're not going to leave TikTok to go to your Insta. It's not going to happen. You need to go where they are, push content there, and let them chill on that site and build all those relationships and all those channels. Are we over the era of owning our channels and owning our mailing lists? And is that over?
I still think they matter a lot. I do. I just think the whole essence of they ask, you answer was they, the market, the buyer, ask. Ask means they are behaving a certain way, right? They're seeking something. They desire something. Are you willing, you answer, are you willing to meet them where they are? So to your point, if somebody wants to do 90% of their research on TikTok, why? Gosh knows, I have no freaking clue. But I am not going to sit there and question their life choices.
Right.
Because I learned a long time ago that you can't allow your personal opinions to script smart business decisions.
Right.
And the other thing that I'm seeing is this. I'm hearing a lot of companies say, AI is really affecting my website traffic. I've not heard a single person, and I am around, I have not heard a single person in the world say AI is hurting my YouTube traffic.
Yeah, good point.
So YouTube is going to increase like a seesaw as your website traffic decreases. So YouTube and social up, website traffic and overall influence on your brand by your website down. Now, this problem is, Justin, people hear that and say, oh, Marcus and Justin said, just throw away your website. And I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that we can't just ride a single horse to the promised land like I did in 2009 and expect to have glorious results and be at the top of our industry.
Yeah, exactly. So is there, and you're absolutely right. I mean, it's about going to people, building all those channels independently. As scary as it sounds, I agree. Your YouTube channel should get the same amount of attention and focus as your website, as scary as that is to say. are there, and maybe this is a simple no, there's not, and that's fine. Are there any risk mitigation techniques? Because some people, and I'll give you an example. When I started this show years ago, someone like some lawyer from I wrote about this whole thing. Some lawyer did not like the fact that his client, I was creeping in on their web traffic. So he went to Apple and said, they're blah, 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 take the channel down. I actually reached out to Apple and I said, hey, I want to make sure this is a legit complaint from your company. Like, is this legit? They said, no, we think this is fraud. Don't reply to this. It was actually from their company. They just had terrible communication. And so my podcast actually came down, and then I threatened this company, and Apple's like, oh my gosh, we're so sorry. They put it up again, but they didn't restore all the subscribers. And so it took me years to get out of that hole. And so are there any risk mitigation channels? Should we be trying to convert people on all these channels still to newsletters and calls to action and forms?
I think a newsletter is still a tremendous way to sustain your brand, right? And to essentially put grain in the storehouse, right? For the rainy day. Because your list is yours, and it'll always be your list. Will people always open their email? No, but they have for 25 years, actually 28-ish, for most. And so that is a big part of society still. And I think those that are very good at email marketing crush still.
Yeah. So, still try to convert people. Just realize that you need to maintain the relationships where they are.
Let's talk about the conversion thing though for a second.
Sure.
Conversions are getting harder.
Yeah, for sure.
For most of us, you can't just give them a buying guide and say, hey, download this, give me your email, good trade. It's like I can go build that buying guide in ChatGPT in 30 seconds right now.
So right.
So I think one of the biggest keys to this is self-service tools, especially on your website. I mean, I think if you want to get that first-party data, which is a very big deal, as a marketer, as a business, and you want to get that email, then the way you're going to get it is through offering self-service tools, which is essentially allowing someone through an interactive tool on your site to take an action or get let's say a recommendation that previously they would have had to have done by talking with a human. And there's different types of this, and I talk a lot about in Endless Customers. There's 5 main types, but let me just give you a couple quick examples. Yeah. One would be a self-selection tool. That's when, let's say a self-selection tool is when you give a recommendation based on choices. So for example, let's say I would do this. I'm gonna, and I've been thinking a lot about this recently. So one very prominent marketing automation tool right now, it's growing, is High Level, Go High Level, okay? The OG is HubSpot. So if I was High Level, I would have a tool on my website that said HubSpot or High Level, which is the best choice for me? Answer these questions to get an honest recommendation. And then you ask a series of questions that are truly unbiased. And at the end, the user gets a report emailed to them as to why one of the tools would be better suited for their business than the other. That's powerful. HubSpot should do this too, by the way, because they've got just individually. HubSpot has these different tiers of these different levels that you can use the tool, right?
Yeah.
Well, what they don't do well is they don't have an interactive tool that helps you figure out which one of these HubSpot levels is right for me. So that's a recommendation tool.
Yeah, you're right.
And that's a no-brainer. Come on, HubSpot, let's go. So another example would be a pricing estimator tool. I'm biased to this, but these are becoming table stakes. I believe within 5 years, 90% of all service-based businesses, especially, are going to have a pricing estimator on their website. I think because the first question that everybody has on the buyer's journey is roughly how much is it going to cost, if you can answer that without giving an exact quote, but giving them a sense, a range, an estimate, now all of a sudden you can have a huge amount of trust brought to you, way more conversions. I started this company price guide at the end of last year. We already have roughly 600 paying customers using the software.
Wow.
All right, where they've built an estimator with Price Guide. Of course, it uses AI. You can do it very, very quickly, and it's extremely inexpensive. It's about $200 a year for the tool. But here's what's wild. When somebody adds this to their website, prominently on the homepage, generally we see an increase in leads by 300 to 500%.
Jeez.
So if you're getting 5 leads a week right now,
What?
for your particular product or service, you put a pricing estimator on there, because if you sell the type of thing that people are like, roughly, what's this going to cost? Like, if you hear that from a prospect, then you should have
That's
an estimator.
a clue.
Okay, yes, that is a strong clue. So you should have an estimator, and I can tell you right now, if you show it prominently on your homepage and use the call to action, get instant estimate. That's the key phrase. Get instant estimate. You're going to see 300 to 500% increase. You'll go from 5 leads a week to 15 to 25. I see it every single day, over and over again.
And generally it comes down, I mean, for some people who are like, well, we don't have estimates, or here's my excuse, or here, generally what it comes down to is, what are ideal customers asking you the first time you meet them? Get that content out there and make it easy, and stop gating it and stop hiding it everywhere. People are nervous. They don't want to knock it off. And so that right there at the core is a really, really good strategy that for some reason, a lot of founders just don't do. You mentioned AI. Mentioned
real quick, Justin.
Yeah.
Friction kills deals.
Yeah.
Friction kills deals. Everything you just mentioned, like examples of what people say. Is there a way to? How do you compare with? What's the rough cost of? All these are friction-based statements. They're trying to get something. They're trying to know something. They're trying to do something, but it's hard for them to do it. If you just freaking open up your ears a little bit and hear what they're suggesting, you can be the most innovative in your space, right? And like, I've got an estimator that's going up on Price Guide this week that shows you it's a calculator tool that allows you to quickly see how many leads will I get additionally because of Price Guide, and what will the financial impact on my company be if I'm using this tool. It took me, I swear to you, 60 seconds to prompt that piece of software into Claude and build this incredible little interactive tool that is going on the Price Guide website. I love this era because I am the opposite of intelligent when it comes to code. I couldn't code a McDonald's Happy Meal. I am worthless. Yet I'm sitting there building apps because I've got this incredible thing called artificial intelligence, but I pay attention to what buyers want. And then I go to a place like a Claude or a Chat and I say, look, I got no clue how to do this. This is what I want to do. Can you build this? And they're like, yeah, here we go. And I'm like, I can't believe I was born in this time. I'm so
wild.
grateful. I'm not George Washington. You know what I mean? This is great.
And you're so excited about it. You're really pushing the limits of my board here. I just saw your levels clip a little bit.
We like to clip the volume board.
Get excited. You mentioned about how you're using AI, which is a great segue because people are starting to use AI for content. And I know there's a good way to do it and a bad way to do it. And this is something you talk about on LinkedIn. You have a pretty big following there. You're very active on LinkedIn. Sorry, LinkedIn, you're very cringy. A lot of crap on LinkedIn, super cringy. Your stuff's really great and relatable.
LinkedIn's not cringy. People that use LinkedIn are cringy.
Fair enough, but they're promoting it. Like some of the algorithm is promoting some of this cringy stuff. But so how do we use AI correctly? I have theories on this. I have models on this, but we see really bad uses a lot. Mm-hmm. You mentioned this in the book, how it's kind of obvious, guys, when you are just letting AI create content for you, knock it off, but yet AI is a really powerful tool in creating content. How do you break this down for someone who's struggling with that and they're just pumping out tons of crap content? Like, how do you guide them? What's the best way to do this?
I call it the coffee shop test, which is if you wouldn't use that word or phrase as you were chatting with a friend in a coffee shop, then you shouldn't be using it in your content. That's the easiest way. We all very quickly developed this AI BS meter.
Yeah, it was fast, wasn't it?
We're looking at stuff and we're saying that's not how it sounds. Now,
Right.
the sad thing though is that on the opposite side of that, there's this thing called the reality paradox, which means because we can now create anything, we don't know if anything we digitally see is even real. And
Yes.
that's sad because I've had people accuse me of, like, I've got a pretty popular fishing YouTube channel, all right? And we catch big fish. I know a lot of people are like, where does that come from, Marcus? I like to fish and I like the YouTubes, so I got a channel that's pretty successful.
On the next episode of the Justin Brady Show.
Right. Anyway, I'm already having situations where people are like, yeah, that's AI. I'm like, what? I was there. This is a camera, right? So now all of a sudden you're seeing people not know what to believe.
Yeah.
I've written really beautiful posts before on LinkedIn, and I've had people say, this would be good if AI hadn't have written it.
Yes. I'm seeing the same thing. I'm seeing stuff I'm really ticked or pissed off about something. I just write it out there, post it, and I'm like, take that. And then that does really well. But the thing I edited and I wrote a great nut graph and I was careful, it bombs.
Yeah. Which drives me bonkers fruit candy.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
So the issue here is that we're entering this period where imperfection will actually be rewarded. You don't want to sound too polished, too clean. The sad part about that is that AI will quickly figure out how to sound more authentic by coming across as imperfect. Eventually, we'll move past this conversation and we'll just stop asking. But what that means is we don't appreciate the creator as much. So it's like all these pros and cons that come with this. But hey, if it cures cancer, I'm here for all of it. I don't really care.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, just because I think that's the net outcome is a lot more abundance, for everybody. That being said, you better get in the sandbox. I'm not a gloom and doomist, but I do think it's your fiduciary as a business owner to get in the dang sandbox, to not allow it. It doesn't matter if you think this is the Terminator, if you think this is the Matrix, none of it matters except what does the marketplace want? And what do we need to do to evolve with the marketplace? That's how I'm handling this. And oh, by the way, if AI is the end of the world and it's going to end the world in 25 years, hypothetically, I'd rather have a very successful business between now and then be taken than to have a crappy business between now and then.
Basically, you're in an authenticity race against AI, and everyone's goal in creating their content and in their marketing is, can you out-authenticate? I don't even know if that's the right way to say that.
I like it though, Justin.
Can you
out-authenticate? That sounds like a good book title.
That's number 3. Can you out-authenticate AI? Marcus, everyone's very, very busy. I know you're a very busy guy. I know you have a tight schedule to keep. And I know we're over time by about a minute. Can I hold you for one more question?
It's because we're having a good time.
We're having a
Justin.
great time. Can I ask you one more question before I let you go? Okay.
Yeah.
One of the patterns you talk about in your book, I'm really glad you go into this, is the challenge that content presents, which is it's a long game thing. For me, it took 2 years of consistently posting this podcast before it started leading to some of the most incredible opportunities I never knew would be possible for me. Most founders and leaders aren't really willing to do that. And as you point out, there's very little goals. There's no strategy. People just let's just try it. And the sad thing about this is it does take leadership complete buy-in to do content right, because it's not just a marketing team that can just go pull switches and run ads and we're good. When you do content, it involves the whole company. And if it involves the whole company, the leader has to bless it and encourage it. This is the leader of an organization. The people we're talking to right now are sometimes the biggest barriers to content. Is there a message to tell them? Is there a model to tell them? Is there something to tell CMOs, like, here's the conversation you have? How can we help them get out of their own way?
The number one email I've gotten over the years, outside of business owners reaching out and saying, hey, Marcus, I need more leads. I need more sales. It's from marketers saying, Marcus, I know we could do so much more, but my CEO won't let me.
Yeah.
And it's really frustrating to see, because especially, the more enterprise, the more corporate you get, oftentimes you get rewarded for being outrageously average.
Yeah.
And for being safe. Whereas if you want to, more than ever, if you want to get noticed today, man, you got to be willing to disrupt. I have an entire section in the book on disruption and specific ways that you can disrupt. And a lot of companies, frankly, won't pay attention to that chapter because they don't have courage. The CEO doesn't have enough courage. The idea of, failing and failing forward are almost foreign concepts. It's like, oh, geez, I can't do that. Your marketing person comes to you and says, hey, I'd like to do this campaign. And you're like, okay, well, can you prove the ROI from somebody that's done it already? No, that's why this is like, really innovative stuff. But yet CEO wants to see something that's proof that this has worked. It's funny, for a long time, I'd have people, when I was talking to folks, organizations about they ask you answer, I realized anytime someone said to me, can you show me other companies in our industry that have had success using they ask you answer? If they asked that question, they weren't going to be successful. It was really wild. But the ones
it's Me Too thinking.
Yeah, they didn't give two, but the ones that didn't give two rips about like if anybody had done it, because it so clearly made sense to them. To your point, outrageously simple. Yes. Like people got questions. I should answer it. Follow the golden rule. Duh. Right? Like, let's go. Those are the ones that crushed. But the ones that are like, yeah, I'd really like to see some other companies that have done this well and as a B2B service-based business. No, you stink up the joint, and you'll continue to sit there and say, yeah, we're special, we're unique, we're a snowflake, our industry is different, our buyer is different. And those attitudes kill innovation. They certainly kill disruption. And they mean that you're just not going to last like these others. You might be here today, but you're not going to be built to last.
Yeah, so it's basically no. Like the end, like it's a firm. If you have a CEO and a leader with a disruptive mindset and they're willing to push into this kind of stuff, that's great. But if you don't, it's going to be an uphill battle to convince them of anything.
Yeah, as a CMO, you need to leave.
Woof. That's tough,
You do.
man. But you're
because
not wrong.
Your success as a marketer rises and falls on your ability to get buy-in for big ideas.
Yeah. I mean, there was one client we worked with, and they were like doing poor in Google, and it was crappy. And one of the CMO told me, you will never outpace trade shows. Like our trade shows are our thing. The digital content will never outpace it. It did. And it did. It took about 2 years, and then it was over 50%. He good relationship with this guy. He's absolutely a brilliant marketer. He ended up leaving. The person who replaced him, who has also been at the company, has no clue. It doesn't understand all the leads. I mean, it's right there in black and white. They have the data, and they don't really get it. It's incredible. Marcus Sheridan, They Ask You Answer, and the new book, Endless Customers. How do people reach out to you? What's the best website? LinkedIn?
I'm great on LinkedIn. I put my best stuff there. As soon as it hits my head, then it hits the LinkedIn first. Even though some of it's cringe, I'm not a part of the cringe society there. You can find me. You can find me at marcussheridan.com as well if you ever want a great speaker at your event.
Marcus, thank you so much for coming on the Justin Brady Show. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure.